Hello everyone, once again this is Baron von Richthoff, and this is actually the second game between 40 Bus Gaming and Team Green Forest. If you haven't had the chance to take a look at the other one, it was definitely an exciting matchup, so I expect no less from this one. As we take a look at the teams, we see Tarek and Kog'Maw are going to be bottom. I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't ban out Kog'Maw after he had done so much damage in the fights. But last game, Caitlyn was able to take control of the lane in that bot lane. So it is Kog'Maw and Tarek versus Caitlyn and Janna. Ryze is going to be, I guess, top lane with Sion mid. Ryze could be mid. Those could go either way. Trundle will be in the jungle. Team Green Forest will have Udyr in the jungle with Kassadin mid and Graves top. So they're actually running a double DPS, which is really exciting, actually. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, so, I mean, it is exciting. You don't see it a lot, but I've always kind of thought that, double DPS is possible in certain comps. And Graves, in particular, he has that AoE damage, but he also is kind of a tanky bruiser kind of champion. And if you play him more like a bruiser, maybe get a little some more defensive items, probably starting off with the wriggles for that lane sustain and, survivability. If you play him kind of like a bruiser, then not only are they going to have a ton of damage output with these DPSers, that is also going to take the focus off of Kassadin for Kassadin to run around and do their thing. But it'll also make them kind of tanky, and they do have Udyr there along with Janna. So Udyr and Janna is exceedingly tanky in and of themselves. The bot lane composition. We had seen Soraka the previous game. I believe that 40 Bus Gaming actually banned Soraka because I don't know that the issue was Caitlyn versus Kog so much as the fact that Soraka could just heal Caitlyn where Kog's not really dealing any damage, and Caitlyn's just getting that free harass. And so Caitlyn was able to win that game, lane last time, but now we have a little bit more aggressive lane. Kog'Maw does have the heals from Tarek, which will help him out, along with the stun. So if Caitlyn is a little bit too aggressive coming forward, Tarek gets a stun off, and Kog gets some free damage. So that should be interesting. They will have more damage, Caitlyn will, with that Janna. Ryze, exceedingly strong early to mid-game. Sion, exceedingly strong through all points of the game. Pretty even team comps. I'd say right now that the advantage is definitely for 40 Bus Gaming. They do have that significant single-target burst and damage output of both Ryze and Sion, as well as both of them being exceedingly strong laning champions. What'll be kind of interesting to me is I'm assuming that Sion is going to be top versus Grave, and Ryze is going to be mid versus Kassadin. Now, Ryze versus Kassadin is a pretty even lane. Ryze, once he gets the mana to be able to just kind of spam, he actually does very well against Kassadin. And early, a couple of levels, he does have that damage output, and Kassadin doesn't really have the mana to sustain. So if Ryze can build kind of tanky early, that'll help him out. If Kassadin gets the lead, I think the big deal will be whether or not the junglers are giving them blue buff. We do see that 40 Bus Gaming is coming in very aggressive to try and steal this blue from Team Green Forest, which would be huge, but they're kind of not there, so I don't know if they're counter-jungling as well or if they're playing defensive, knowing that we have a Tarek stun, we have a Sion stun, we have a Ryze snare. Knowing that 40 Bus Gaming has such an aggressive early game team. We do see that Trundle actually is going Vampiric Scepter, which is a little bit surprising. You can't clear your jungle as fast as you would with a cloth armor. However, you will get to level 6 a little bit faster by clearing out these small camps, the wraiths, wolves, and mini golems, because they will respawn sooner and they're on a much shorter respawn time than the buffs. But he won't be able to be as involved early game because he won't have those buffs and won't have those early levels. So that'll be interesting to see. Top lane, I'm assuming, is going to be Sion versus Graves. And like I was saying earlier, everyone knows Graves is passive. It's generally going to be up all of the time in lane. They are still sitting here trying to see if they can pick someone off, which is pretty interesting. But it's generally going to be up all the time in lane. So Graves is going to be exceedingly tanky early. Sion, on the other hand, he's got his shield. Ryze is actually going top. So that's actually interesting. Sion's also very good against Kassadin, but Kassadin's going top, so it is Ryze versus Kassadin still. I'm surprised they didn't give Kassadin the short lane, especially since Graves does have that mobility. He has that little mini blink kind of, and we saw that Trundle and them, they did steal their blue. But anyway, so Sion as a champion, he has great burst damage, and he also has the survivability with his shield. And if you can't pop his shield, then he can just run around not taking any damage and then explode it in your face, which is what Scion does. He just charges at you. But a lot of champions can just pop that Scion shield real quick, a little bit of burst, you pop the shield, and once Scion's doesn't have the shield, he's actually very mana hungry, and now he doesn't have his damage or defense. So very quickly he goes from just, this godly rampaging machine to, just a mana hungry melee champion. But so it will be interesting. Graves does have the benefit of his Q ability. It's that AoE damage nuke, but it also, as you get closer, it does more damage because Graves' ability, it allows the lines to overlap. It's kind of like Ash's Volley, except that, like the old Ash's Volley, where, the arrows can overlap. So Scion, if he doesn't stun Graves, he's going to be running at Graves with this shield, and Graves almost instantly is going to be able to burst that shield because he is going to have the bonus damage as you get closer and closer range to him. So then, if Scion doesn't have the shield, Graves definitely wins that 1v1 situation with his damage output and mobility. So it'll primarily be a free farm lane, but Scion, definitely has to kind of think a little bit more about how he's utilizing his abilities. Doesn't want to push too hard because he can push the lane pretty easily, because then potentially Graves could be zoning him. We do see that very early on Kassadin is pushing the lane, which is a little bit surprising because it's indicative of Kassadin being able to sit up at the creeps and free farm, kind of zoning Ryze. We can't see their health, but I would assume since he's being so aggressive coming forward that he is, kind of harassing Ryze well. And now Kassadin's strength, has Ryze already used both of his health pots? Wow, that's really surprising. Unless he didn't buy them, which wouldn't make any sense at all. But anyway, so Kassadin, his Q, his silence ability actually has greater range than any of Ryze's abilities, but because of the travel time, if Ryze continues to move towards Kassadin, he will be able to get that snare off. And in the meantime, we see Udyrs coming down, but they do have a ward here, so, good job with that awareness. They do know that Udyr is an exceedingly fast jungler, so he's got his double buffs, he has boots probably. He's got cloth armor, so he hasn't gone back yet, which is a little bit surprising. Usually you clear the jungle and go back, so he actually walked all the way from top down to bottom, which is kind of a waste of his time. Very early on, the stun goes off onto Caitlyn, and Kog is going to do some damage. The armor debuff from Taric, but I was going to say, very early on, this lane is completely different from what it was last game. And the previous game, and Udyr coming in onto Scion. Scion does throw off his flash, but the stun from Udyr, he's chasing him down with that red. He gets a little bit of damage off, but Scion is going to be okay. But anyway, last game, Caitlyn's range was able to effectively harass Kog, and very quickly, Caitlyn was up on jungle was up on CS count. Caitlyn was up on damage output. Caitlyn, they got the early tower. I mean, it was their lane. But, all of a sudden we see this huge turnaround where Kog is able to deal his damage a little bit more safely. He does have that heal. He still has the boots, which will allow him to move in and out of harass. But they, very quickly harass Caitlyn out of the lane. They push up, so she's missing a lot of golden XP. And then they're going to recall, buy their items, and come back to lane kind of with a vengeance. Some damage going off the exhaust from Ryze, but the ignite from Kassadin, they will have to watch out, and Ryze is able to pick up that kill. 46 HP, so just a tiny little bit of damage left. You did see that Ryze did an excellent job of kiting, not only with that exhaust, but also with this. And Udyr coming in on mid. Scion doesn't have the flash, but he is going to be okay backing out of there. He will have the shield to kind of protect him there. But Ryze's burst damage output, Kassadin kind of wins a little bit on the fast burst exchange, but then Kassadin has exceedingly strong cooldowns. So in the meantime, Ryze is able to just spam those abilities, has that continuous damage output, and was able to win that exchange. And I do believe that Ryze actually didn't buy any health pots in the beginning, but we see he has a Tear of the Goddess, so he is building up that mana. It's really great to get it out early, not only so he can spam a lot on Kassadin, but also to charge it up. So I believe he wanted to get that out as fast as possible, though it probably would have been better for him to get health pots, and maybe he did, and he just had to use them all level 1, which would be a little bit surprising. Trundle trying to come in, doesn't really have an opportunity. If Scion could get the stun and he's a little bit closer up, then maybe they could do something, but Graves does have that escape, so he will generally be safe in lane. But still, we see Kog, he has a level advantage and just able to zone Caitlyn off of these creeps. Just whenever Caitlyn's walking up to get these creeps, Cog is walking up to get that damage. So, very, just excellent play down here. Janna's Udyr up top. He is chasing after Ryze. The snare goes off onto Udyr to prevent the stun, so they will be okay. But, Janna trying to keep Caitlyn shielded, but, just taking too much damage too quickly. The shield's dying very quickly, and as a result, Janna is very low on mana. She hasn't recalled yet. Let me see. Okay, yes, Janna hasn't recalled yet, which is actually very surprising. She's kind of losing them this lane right now because she hasn't recalled, but she hasn't really had the opportunity to recall. This lane's kind of pushed right now. It is going to push back into him, so once this gets to the tower, Janna is going to want to recall. She needs those items, and she needs that mana to be able to support Caitlyn. Without that mana, you can't really support at all. So hopefully this pushes up, but actually they're doing a very excellent job of just freezing the lane, so they can just zone Caitlyn out all day. And this lane is 100% theirs. It's really just fantastic play. Taking a look at the CS early, we see Sion and Kassadin are pretty even, with Graves off to an early advantage to Sion, though not really that much, but it is something of an advantage, which is nice. Udyr coming down, the damage from Cog. One more ultimate would kill that Udyr, would kill that Caitlyn. She's not going for it. He's trying to move back into position to try and get it, perhaps. Can he get that ultimate? One more ultimate. Why is he not throwing off the ultimate? I'm a little bit surprised, but maybe I guess their opinion is sometimes it's better to not go for the kill. If you can kind of zone them off, and then also if he's going to wait for Caitlyn to teleport, if this shield wears off, once this shield wears off, you can probably get it. Okay, she is going to back up, but if you, sometimes if you're going to have to be too aggressive to go for the kill, a lot of times it's just better to let them have low health, because then they're just in complete control of this lane. They didn't really want to be too risky, go for kills. They're just taking control. Caitlyn once again is going to be denied farm as she leaves, and they're going to get this free damage onto this tower. So which is really just excellent. Udyr coming up through his top jungle, so he'll probably be top in a second because he's doing blue. He's probably around red right now, I would expect. So Ryze will want to watch out. Kassadin flashing in on top of Ryze, but the exhaust goes off to prevent that damage, and he's just kind of throwing off his own damage. Ryze does have that blue, and he flashes after Kassadin, but the Kassadin flashes away. So, pretty close engage there. Haven't seen a lot of activity from Trundle. We do see that Trundle, wow, but Kassadin flashing on top of Ryze is able to pick up that kill. They were both low from that engage, and Kassadin's silence is able to get the advantage in the burst category. That's definitely, Kassadin's strong point. But Udyr chasing after Trundle, the perfect pillar to block him off. He still has to watch out. It's pretty close, but he should be okay. He has those boots. Udyr chasing down also has those boots, but now they're chasing after Udyr, and the stun goes off from Sion. Can they get this bite? One more bite, and there's the ignite with the agony, I believe. No, Trundle wasn't level 6 yet, so they are able to pick up the kill onto Udyr, which is just fantastic. They are swapping lanes. They know that Sion's a little bit stronger against Kassadin at this point in the game than Ryze is. As far as burst is concerned, Ryze definitely has the sustained damage, but Sion has the benefit. Kassadin's Q isn't enough damage to burst his shield. If Kassadin uses Q and his silence or his ultimate, yes, that'll burst it. Or if he Qs and then attacks a couple of times, but the Graves with that red buff, will they flash over after him? Sion flashing after him, and they are able to pick up the kill. Graves kind of throwing off some damage at the end, wasn't really going to accomplish anything, trying to just get his due. But a quick advantage for their team. We do see that Trundle does have cloth armor and boots. Which is always kind of interesting how you develop from the Vamp Scepter. You definitely want to go in early boots from Vamp Scepter, so you can be a little bit more involved in the game. And with that cloth armor, he doesn't need any health pots ever. He'll be able to sustain, permanently in the jungle. The only thing is it's not the fastest clear through the jungle. You're much faster with Madreds, but Trundle generally is a very fast jungler, so he can do it very successfully, whereas, on a jungler like Warwick, it really would not be beneficial at all because it would just slow you down so much. And he does have that Oracle, so providing excellent map control, walking around trying to clear some wards. We do see Kassadin was up top. They recognized they were going to lose the dragon, so he's just farming and pushing down that tower. It's probably getting down to about half health, but we see Trundle setting up on this, Caitlyn on the spot lane, and because of this, he has the stun from Taric and the wall off, so Caitlyn can't use her flash. One more hit from Cog, and there's the hit, able to pick up the kill. Really just effective play. Caitlyn can't use her escape through that wall, so the stun sets up the perfect pillar from Trundle, and then they're able to get the damage. Caitlyn, used her little net to get out of there, but the long range ultimate, once she's pinched in between that tower from Cog, was able to take her down. As we take a look at items, we do see that Graves, like I thought, he is going that